Welcome to the Teachers on Fire podcast, where 21st century educators come to share, learn, and be inspired. We believe in the growth mindset, creativity, communication, critical thinking, collaboration, and strategic uses of education technology. Our mission is to share news and views from teachers who are crushing it in the classroom and making a difference for learners everywhere. I'm your host, Tim Cavey. Let's jump into today's episode.
Today, I'm speaking with Diana Williams. Diana is a teacher, speaker, and consultant for School District 36 of Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. She's also a student of PBL, an award winner, and constant innovator. Diana, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Are you ready to talk education?
I sure am.
Well, that's great to hear. Let's jump in. Why don't you start by telling us about your current teaching or education situation?
All right. I'm teaching in Surrey, BC. It's one of the largest school districts in BC. It's actually one of the largest in Canada. But it also feels pretty small when you get to know the teacher community here. We've got a great selection of teachers in Surrey. So we're very, very lucky. And because we're so big, we've got lots of support and we've got lots of helping teachers and stuff too. So I count myself as being super lucky to work in Surrey. I'm at a South End school called Bayridge Elementary, and we're about 150 kids, sometimes a little bigger, sometimes a little smaller. About 40% of our population are English language learners. And with that comes lots of really highly anxious kids. So we're seeing a real epidemic of anxiety going through our schools right now. So that's something that I'm really tuned into. And yeah, right now I teach a grade 3-4 class. And I've taught everything from kindergarten to grade 7. I've taught music and French and you name it, I've pretty much done it. So
Fantastic. Diana, let's start by talking about a low moment that you faced in your teaching or education career and tell us about how you got through it.
You know, when I saw this question, I was like, yeah, okay, teaching is a real thing. And there's good and great high moments. There's so many high moments, but with that also comes a lot of low moments. And being real and honest about that, I think, is important, especially for our newer teachers to know that even us older veterans, you know, sometimes we struggle. In my career, I've had the experience of 3 strikes. So that's where the government can't agree with the teachers union about, you know, how the contract's going to go or what our teaching conditions are, that sort of thing. And so we have a pretty interesting negotiating process in BC, and often it ends up in conflict. And so over the years, I've been part of 3 full-on walkouts, and nothing rips a group of teachers apart faster than a strike. And so surrounding yourself with people who are positive and staying off social media, that's a really, really important thing to get through. And given the history of how we negotiate things here in BC, I think it's really important to also have some good money management skills, because it's going to happen again, unfortunately. And whether it's, you know, partial strike or a full-on strike, our last one was over 3 months. And my husband and I are both teachers, so financially that was a really huge hit. So my advice is start putting money away, and you know, hope you never have to use it, and you can go on a great trip when you're done, you know, when you're finished teaching. But that adds to the stress of all of it, is the financial factor of it. So being positive, you just have to stay positive and know that it'll pass, and being really mindful with your words and knowing that you still have to work with all these people when we're done. So including the administration and yeah, just being really cautious about how you interact with people and what you put out there on social media too.
That is so valuable. And I think you're the first person to sort of go into the labor side of the job, but it's a reality, I think, for all educators. Obviously, we live under these CBAs and changing labor conditions and relationships with government. And those are all realities. And I think your lessons about financial management and just being intentional and protecting relationships where we can is really, really wise. Diana, what is it that excites you about education today? So on a more positive note, going from labor disputes, what is it that is really energizing you right now?
Okay, well, I'm one of these people that's just straight jazzed about being a teacher all the time. So You get me started about a conversation in education and I'll go on for hours. But right now, our core competencies, so the BC curriculum has just recently changed in the past couple of years. And so the core competencies, when they first came in, we were all kind of like, what is this about? What's going on here? This, you know, doesn't seem authentic. And why are we, you know, teaching these in a silo and that sort of thing? But over time, and as the curriculum has kind of emerged, it's been an interesting process for this iteration of our new curriculum, and how they've launched it. As veteran teachers, it's easy to be really cynical and dig our heels in and say, oh, here's another one. Like, this is my third curriculum that we've been through. I started in the days of whole language, which, had its merits, but it wasn't meeting the needs of kids. And so that's changed over time. And as we keep going, it keeps getting better and better. But, you have those favorite units that you love to do. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't have a community unit anymore. That's moved to grade 2. And I'm so bummed because I had all of these wonderful inquiry experiences that I want my kids to do. And so you have to let that go. And as a teacher, I inherently want to do well for my kids. And so I don't want to just keep throwing unit after unit together. And when you're looking at formative assessment and having exemplars of what students have done in previous years and looking at your success criteria, and then it's like, I don't have a sample, like a kid sample for this. And, not having all of those tools and all of those resources to be able to show the kids, this is really where we're going with the learning. It's been hard. So it's a little unsettling, and it's been tricky and challenging. But in spite of all that, I think that the new curriculum, that the developers are really spot on with the core competencies and the philosophy behind the new curriculum. What do students know? What do they understand? What can they do? And that lends itself beautifully to inquiry, because I've been doing inquiry for years and kind of getting my hands slapped, like, well, okay, where's the content and where's this and that? And it's just validated how I know that kids learn, and how I know that, especially those kids that aren't, good at doing school, those kids, they need to put their hands on things, and they need to figure it out and try it. And so that really excites me. The fact that the first people's principles of learning is woven into the curriculum, that's been so long overdue. And so it's beautiful that we can just weave that right into what we do every day. And that's been super exciting. So it's been a process, that's for sure. I started piloting the new curriculum about 4 years ago. And at that time it was like, okay, what are we doing here? But it's evolved beautifully. And so many of the really smart people in our district are brain trust up at the school board office. They've done really great things, and nice with social media now that people are starting to share. So I got a bunch of stuff from North Vancouver. Delta's doing some really wonderful things about First Nations and combining that with core competencies. Like, Beaver is a hard worker, and what competency does that go with? And there's lots of really great resources starting to come out now. A bit sketchy for a while, though. I'm going to be honest.
A little shaky.
Yeah. So another thing that I'm working with right now is Classroom Champions. In our district, we've had Classroom Champions, in my school anyways, for 5 years. And Classroom Champions is where they pair current Olympians with classrooms for skilled mentorship. And so we get to build a relationship with a mentor, and they send us videos every month about things like goal setting or perseverance, fair play, all of those soft SEL skills that you want kids to be able to do. It's just a really engaging way for kids to be able to do that. And then we get to Skype with them. And we were really lucky. Shaw was our sponsor. So they actually paid for our athlete to come out. And we had a big barbecue, and the kids got to play with their mentor. And it was just beautiful. And so we've done that for 5 years. And it's magic. And thinking about those core competencies and connecting those together, it has been amazing. Absolutely amazing. So now that we've got 5 years through the school, I've got all these Classroom Champions kids, and they get it. They get it. This is what you have to do to set a goal, and then you have to go back and check in with your goals, and all of those skills that we want kids to be able to do. So, and if you're interested in, and if you're in North America, or if you're at a naval base in Germany, I think, Air Force Base, and there's some Costa Rica, I think, has Classroom Champions as well. Classroomchampions.org, you can go online and apply. And there's a couple of different models for how you could get funded and all of that too. So something that I've done for a long time, for about 6 years now, is kiva.org. And that is an online micro-lending platform. And so my students are able to make loans to entrepreneurs in developing countries. And then the entrepreneur uses that money to start their business or expand their business. And, we're really working together to alleviate global poverty. And it's not a handout. It's a loan. They have to pay it back, and we get the money back, and then we loan it out again. And there's so much you can teach through that in terms of social studies and language arts and communication and science. And it's just a really great way to wrap an inquiry unit around doing some social good at the same time. And with my little people, they're in grade 3, they're 8 and 9 and 10. And, they get it. They really get it. And they want to make a difference. And they feel really connected to these loans that they've made. So it's awesome.
That is a great list. Again, that was, we talked about core competencies and the new curriculum here in BC. We talked about classroom champions and then kiva.org. I've participated, Diana, a little bit in Kiva myself.
Awesome.
Do you get, I like that idea of getting your students involved, because the denominations we're talking about are not,
$25.
Yeah, $25.
Yeah.
So not difficult to put that together, or more, I guess, in denominations of 25 with your class. Yeah. And then do you, the question I have is, I'm just thinking back to my own Kiva experience. I've only dabbled, as you can tell, but I don't remember getting a lot of feedback in terms of how the donation, or I should say the loan, was being used. Did you get some information back about that? Some updates?
Yeah, sometimes they'll send you updates.
Okay.
The education coordinator for Kiva is Jessica Hansen, and she's like, these are real people here, and you can email them, and quite often they'll have Kiva fellows who are on the ground in the developing countries, and you can Skype with them. We've Skyped with lots of people from all over the world. And they'll give you an update. I remember when the earthquake happened in Haiti, a lot of our loans went delinquent. And so the kids, they were quite concerned about that. And so that led to a whole conversation about, stable government and all of that, these huge conversations with little people. It's incredible what they can do. But then, we were able to Skype with a Kiva fellow, and he talked about how some of the loans have to be put in delinquent, but then later on, and over the years, we've been repaid for some of those loans as well. Mm-hmm. There is the element of loss. You can lose money on it. But I look at it from the ADST curriculum. So we put together a business plan, and then we fundraise. So the kids usually develop or make something. We sell those little rubber band bracelets that the kids made.
Okay.
Appropriate for grade 3, right? And so they sold them out on the playground. They raised money, and we looked at making that business plan, and then what we were going to do and how we were going to give back. And so we looked at the business plans of the people that we're making loans to. And so we developed criteria about who we loaned to and who we maybe gave a pass to. And then inherently, the kids decided that their philosophy was that they wanted to make loans in countries where there's either an unstable government or a recent conflict. And so in choosing that criteria, they know that there's a big risk that they are going to lose money, and they were okay with that. Yeah.
That is phenomenal. I can just see so many tie-ins there with, obviously, with social studies. I mean, just the inquiry process of, unpacking the world, looking at conflict areas, and you can sort of see that going in many different directions, right? Yeah. Moving on, Diana, outside of education, what's another area of passionate learning? I love this question because I love to hear what teachers are into outside of when you're not thinking about the classroom and planning lessons. What is it that fascinates you as a person? I mean, we're a person in either sphere, but but outside of school, what are you looking at?
Well, I like to say that teaching's a lifestyle. Because I'm always thinking about it, like always thinking about my kids and thinking about curriculum and thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow. And so besides my family, because they're my number one area of passion, but I go to Orange Theory, and it's a 1-hour workout, and it's cardio and strength. And so you go in and you do your cardio part or your strength part first, but it's 24 people. And a small group training and loud music. You go in, you go hard for an hour, and then you go home. And I've never done the same workout twice there. So for me, that's really important because I get bored easily. And there's a huge range of abilities. So yesterday there was a lady there who was 60, and she had just finished her 300th class. And
wow.
Yeah, she had all of her family with her. And, so some of her kids were like big buff bodybuilders, and, she's 60 and she's just giving her on the treadmill, every range of body size. And so you've got these big beefy treadmill, runners and everything. And then you've got this grandma next to you, and everybody's doing their thing, and it's your own pace. You're competing against yourself. You're just trying to push yourself a little bit further. And they're all like-minded people. And one of my things is that, surround yourself with people who you want to be like, right? And that's your community, and that's who you are, and that will get you to be a better person. So, being surrounded by people that have the same goals as you or a similar outlook on life, for me, teaching is stressful. Like, I mean, let's be real here. It can be a really
Mm-hmm.
hard job. I taught inner city for well over 10 years. And some of the things that I had to deal with were things that I wouldn't want anybody to deal with. And how you manage your mental health and how you manage your stress level and being able to put stuff away sometimes and just take a break from it is it's necessary if you want to be a teacher for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so being physically active and getting out there and going to the gym, I go maybe more than most people do. I'm like 6 or 7 days a week, but I love it there.
Wow.
I just
Yeah.
love it there. And I mean, I'm not in amazing shape or anything. I just go and I do my thing and I really enjoy it. So that's been my passion, but it's efficient because, you know, I'm a busy mom and there's always laundry waiting for me, but I can, I can go there, do my thing. I'm in and out in an hour and a half from doorstep to doorstep.
Love it. Love it. That's Orange Theory. You know, Diana, I've said it before, but I feel like self-care needs to be a bigger part of our Pro D and a part of our education conferences. And, you know, something, a workshop on Orange Theory fits, I think, with, you know, what teachers need to be taking in. So
it's worth the time to go to. I really think it's the high intensity interval training. So for those gym people who, you know, there's different things. It's not weightlifting. Like, you know, I'm not a power lifter. I'm not a bodybuilder. But I
no CrossFit.
Yeah. It's HIIT training. So, and it's not CrossFit. I'm too old for that. So, you know, my body doesn't recover fast enough for that. But, it's easy to modify and adapt for what your needs are. So we've got lots of, you know, pregnant moms in there doing their thing, and
very cool.
Yeah.
Next, Diana, share with us a personal habit that contributes to your success. This could be small, big, weird, wonderful, whatever it is. We'd love to hear.
Well, when you said share one personal habit, I thought, oh boy. So I got a fun. Positive mindset and your self-talk. What you say to yourself on a daily basis matters. It so matters to your mental health. And if you change how you talk to yourself, you change how you are. So like, look into that. It's really important. Family time. I, you know, carve out family time and it's sacred and nobody gets between me and my kids. And my husband too. Like you got to be able to maintain those relationships at home. Like that's supposed to be your happy place. Getting enough sleep. So I am like the worst when this whole social media, like when Twitter blew up in like 2009, I just had my first baby. And so, you know, when you have a new baby, you don't sleep. And so I was on the Twitters all the time, like, and it was a small community back then. Like it's changed so much. And so like, you know, these are people that I'm interacting with and stuff. And you've got to get enough sleep. And it's so easy just to get sucked into that screen. And then it's like, oh my God, it's 1 a.m. What am I doing? Right? Got to put it away. So getting enough sleep, super important. Something that I've learned over time, and you'll probably notice this from my social media presence, is that I say no more, like a ton more. I'm not on Twitter very much, although I do love to just go there and find inspiration. And I know I'm supposed to be giving back to my community and stuff, but right now, young kids and everything, it's just, I can't do it all. So saying no, like my blog, I was big into blogging for a while. It's been sitting, gathering dust for a while, but you know, I'll get back to all of those things and just making your home and your work life balance a priority. Sometimes you have to say no, and it's really hard to, because there's so many wonderful opportunities out there. Like, so the things that you do say yes to, they need to be things that are personally important to you or something where you can contribute and give back. I've had 13 student teachers over my career. And,
wow.
Yeah. And that's the first thing I say, you know, you can't do it all. You got to choose, you know, 1 or 2 things that you're really personally passionate about and stick with that and say no to the others. Yeah, it's a bunch. Anyway.
Boom. No, that was well said. I love that. I'm just drinking that in. And, you know, on the subject of saying no, thank you for saying yes to this. I really appreciate that. And I'll say thanks again. But no, you're right. We have to discriminate, right, with our time. And we can't be apologetic about saying no. Sometimes it's just not possible to do it all.
It's true.
Moving into some rapid fire recommendations, Diana, we're looking for some picks here and can't wait to hear what you have in store for us for some of these. But we'll start at Twitter, best place to build a quality PLN that feeds nonstop inspiration. Who do you recommend that we follow on Twitter?
I have 2. I have one who's far away, Bill Twitter, William F. Ferriter. He is Plug Us In on Twitter, and he is the Tempered Radical is his blog. And he's got everything from, his political situation down in the Carolinas there, to formative assessment, to science, to building a personal learning community. And he speaks around the world, and he's just, and he's the nicest person. He's amazing. And we both have kids that are the same age, and so we connect around that too. But he is a super, super smart person, and always willing to help, with ideas and suggestions and feedback and that. So he's amazing. Follow him at Plug Us In. And he's got some great perspective around ed technology. And he was the one that got me into Kiva in the first place. So he blew my mind. Love Bill Ferriter. The second one is a local one, Lindsay James. And she is another just amazing human being. Her Twitter handle is SD36MS James, SD36MS James. She does a ton around inquiry. She's got a 3-4 class, I think, this year. And the core competencies and she shares tons. So if you want someone that, you can grab inspiration from, she just did a couple of weeks ago, a whole big unit on time, but she had the kids imagine they were in an airport. And it was just like all of these things that she's pulled in, elapsed time and all of that. It was just financial management, the whole thing. It was great. And she's also just a really super human being. She's a lovely, lovely person.
Very, very cool. I was just thinking for audiences outside of British Columbia, I'm just going to quickly say the 3 main core competencies, and you can clarify this, Diana, but we've got first one, communication. Yep. Second one, creative and critical thinking. Yep. And then third one is all about the personal and social identity and responsibility. Yep. So,
cultural identity.
That's where the BC curriculum is oriented from K to 12, and it really simplifies things. So.
Yeah, and it's all those soft skills. It's the social emotional learning and how you navigate every day in the classroom, beyond the subject areas, so it helps us wrap all of the subject areas into just being really good people. How do you talk to somebody? Do you look them in the eye? Do you listen with your hands and your feet? Like all those things that we teach kids, it's just given us like the language and the tools to talk about the same things together. So it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Whole people, building little whole people,
happy humans, right?
Exactly. Next, Diana, point us to an edtech tool that you currently love using in your classroom or your day-to-day work.
In my classroom, I use a program called Prodigy, and it's a math program. It's based in Canada, actually. I was surprised. I thought it was out of the States. But the kids, it's like doing, it's gamified education. It's gamified math, but it's all individualized. So I can put on my the back end of this, I can put the unit that they're doing and the skills that I want them to do. And there's assessments that it's just kind of seamless. They have no idea they're doing math. They're battling each other for pets and things like that. And they're just so engaged with it. I've never seen something engaged for that, like the sustainability of how long kids are engaged with an app. They beg me for it. So I will, do a math lesson, and when they're finished the math lesson they're doing, they'll hop onto Prodigy, and then I can check in with kids, and it just allows that flexibility in the inquiry process to connect with those kids that maybe need a little bit more scaffolding, a little more support, and the other kids are still doing meaningful things. So Google Docs for collaborating, that's just like, that one's just been amazing, because I'm back from the day where we didn't even have computers, so Google Docs is like, wow, amazing. And Paper 53, I've got it's called Pencil. And it's just it's a tool that I use for my iPad, and it's for sketching, and you can do some beautiful watercolor stuff. I've gotten my class into it a little bit, and they love it. Another one that actually just came to mind is Canva. Canva is a beautiful one for any of your posters or things that you want to send home. So
great list. Love those. Recommend a book next, Diana. One that maybe you've been reading lately, or one of your all-time faves, and tell us why you recommend it.
All right. I have a sickness when it comes to books, by the way. So I've been cut off. My husband will not let me buy any more books. But I got a gift card from Amazon. Of course, I can buy more books. So the one that I've got on my bedside table right now is Science Notebooks, and it's writing about inquiry. So it's super practical. You read it and you can do it. And I love books like that. So it brings writing authentically into the science process, which I think we don't do enough of. I think we're really good at, filling in sheets, and we're good at filling in diagrams and that. But writing about science, I think, is something that we can always do more of. And it helps to scaffold kids to show how they think in the inquiry process. So a lot of the time when you're doing science inquiry, the kids don't really know how to communicate that. So how the different forms of writing for information, that sort of thing. And then, science notebooks, my brother's an engineer, and he's always got these black and white notebooks like kicking around his house. And that's how they think, and that's how they record all their stuff. And even in this digital world, they still have all these notebooks for their writing and stuff. So it's like authentic how scientists do stuff. And whenever I can teach my kids in the same way that, real, quote unquote, real scientists do it, I think that that's a win.
Have you ever pulled in or seen any references to Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks?
Yeah, there's actually an app. There's a Leonardo app. And
is there?
Yeah, it's called Da Vinci, I think. It's a bit graphic for the age of kids that I'm teaching, so I didn't put it on their iPads, but mind blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, he is. I don't know. My mind just jumped there, and I think if I remember correctly, he wrote a lot of his notes backwards.
Yeah.
So just a really fascinating example of what you were talking about in terms of the scientific process, reflecting on learning, metacognition, all of that.
Yeah.
So, next, Diana, are you a podcast listener? And if so, recommend one and tell us why you love it.
Well, being a rebel, I'm going to recommend two.
Okay. Yeah, please.
There's a podcast called FitUntd, and that's a friend of mine, Kevin Green, and he's a trainer. He's got his own gym, and it's just, he's just getting started. So I think he's done a couple or 3 or 4. And it's like those myths that you think, about eating and working out and how to, care for yourself and that. Things like, as women, we don't want to get bulked up. Like the last thing I want to do is have huge lats as I'm trying to go sideways through a doorway, right? But, like actually lifting heavy weight will never build big muscle in women because we have so much estrogen. Things like that. Like, why do you lift heavy weight? Well, it's so you have more density in your bones, and that as you age is really, really important. So just, debunking fitness myths, offering advice to how to eat and how to sleep and how to spend your time when you're in the gym. So that's kind of a neat one. And then Angela Watson, Truth for Teachers, is a gold mine. I love Angela. I met her at ISTE a few years ago, and she's just, again, another lovely human being. I've recommended her to so many of my student teachers because it's so practical. And day-to-day in managing a classroom. I think she's got one out right now. Is like, how do you deconstruct your classroom in an afternoon? I taught down in the States for a year, and being on the year-round system, we had to pull our classroom apart, pack it up, and then, re-engage our classroom like a month and a half later. So it's very practical for American listeners as well. But here in Canada, our structure is a bit different. But you can take so much from it, and just the day-to-day management and being efficient with your time. And as teachers, it's really easy to sit there until 5 o'clock and really not get a lot done because we're just sort of putzing about. But being intentional and mindful about what your goals are for the day and getting that done. Her podcast is great for lots of ideas for that. And she teams up with Vicki Davis, who's another powerhouse. She's amazing. If you haven't had a chance to look into any of her stuff, she's got an email blast that she sends out every week, and it's got all like the latest and greatest in edtech tools. And she's just another lovely, lovely human being. So she's great. She's at Cool Cat Teacher on Twitter.
Okay. Yeah, I do follow those too, and on my podcast list as well. And I have to second everything you just said. Angela Watson is always relevant and so thoughtful and well put together. Love her stuff for sure. Last couple of questions, Diana. Tell us about a YouTube channel. We're starting to, I find some people are sort of ignoring the whole subscribe feature, and others are starting to use it. So tell us about a channel that maybe we should add to our list, and this might be something helpful in your classroom or one that you just enjoy on a personal basis.
These ones are goofy. I'm a huge nerd, but I'm also a piano player. So Peter Bence, he covers pop songs with it's called prepared piano. And so you set up your piano and you do rhythm and stuff inside the actual piano, and then he's got looping machines, pedals and stuff next to the piano. So Peter Bence and Joachim Horsley, they both do amazing covers of songs, or Joachim Horsley is a bit more classically trained and doing more classical stuff. But if you want to see a piano outside of your traditional performance, concert hall, it's amazing and it's really catchy and it's just something a little different. And then Acapella Science, it's like combined my love of singing and piano and science, and it just if I could recommend any YouTube channel, it's Acapella Science. So they took Ed Sheeran's The Shape of You and changed it to the molecular shape of you. If I taught any of the senior courses, I'd be like, this is our hook for what we're doing, and they've got everything from, Big Bang Theory and how planets orbit. It's fantastic. It's like Bill Nye for adults. So those are my favorites right now.
Those are great recommendations. And for anyone listening, I will make sure to post those links to those channels on teachersonfire.net and make sure you go and take a look at those. Last question, Diana. It's the end of the day. You've got no energy left for teaching or reading or anything else productive. What are you watching on? Now, my question is on Netflix. It could be anything. What are you paying attention to relax?
Well, I'd pay for Netflix, but I don't watch it.
Okay.
I don't watch a lot of TV. In the summertime, we do get away. We go to Hawaii and we live there. So we watch American Ninja Warrior. That's kind of my thing at nighttime. It's just fun, right? And the personalities are hilarious, but it's kind of mindless stuff. I do watch a lot of TED Talks, and one right now is Muscle Matters by Brandon Egan, and that's TEDx USD. And it's really been playing in my mind because it's how being physically inactive all day long is really damaging our kids' development. And that to me is like, I need to be really mindful about how long I let these kids sit for and how much we're getting outside and how much we're making kids physically active and teaching physical literacy, because that's a huge part of developing happy, healthy people. And, the health of people later on, diabetes and, basically muscle wasting and that. It's a really fascinating TED Talk.
Diana, can I just say this has been absolutely fascinating. I feel like we could talk for hours. Thank you so much, though, for sharing this time with us. What is the best way for the listeners to follow you and get to know your content a little better?
So I've kind of gone underground, which is, sorry. I am on Twitter occasionally. I'll post some of the Classroom Champion stuff. So that's Teacher Diana 1. My Instagram is mostly my kids and my family. So if you don't know me, then that's kind of irrelevant.
A bit weird.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's strange. I do have some stuff up on my blog, teacherdiana.com. But again, I haven't really added a lot to it. So I'm kind of lame right now, but I'm happy in where my life is. I haven't written any books, but I'm in a bunch of them. So a book, actually, I should have actually said this one, but Chelsea Clinton's It's Your World, Get Informed, Get Inspired, Get Going. That's a wonderful book if you're looking at doing any, social entrepreneurship stuff with kids. There's ideas from A to Z in that book. It's just fantastic. And then I'm in a couple of Bill Ferriter's books and Dean Sharesky's books. So,
More giants of education on Twitter. Very, very, very interesting. And you're clearly well connected. And I think that's just comes out in everything you have to share, Diana. You're just a wealth of ideas and inspiration. So thanks again for this, and really look forward to connecting in person at some point. But until we do, enjoy the rest of this school year. Hope it goes well for you, and enjoy Hawaii. I'll try not to be too jealous.
Well, thank you. It's been great to connect with you, Tim.
All right. Take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Teachers on Fire, where teachers come to share, learn, and be inspired. Please subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review on iTunes, and follow us on Twitter at Teachers on Fire. I'm your host, Tim Cavey, saying goodbye for now, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Teachers on Fire podcast.